This is my nursery slash small greenhouse. I collect rainwater in this barrel here. That's pretty much what I water the plants with in the springtime. There's nothing in there now. I usually only start my seeds in here. That's why I call it the nursery. It's got one 55-watt Siemens panel on there. Let's see how this looks in here. I'm gonna have to do a video on this later. This is my ebb and flow bed. I have it pretty much running off these two North Star 12 volts. She stays charged. This is the water tank. It's an auxiliary water pump from a Mercedes. And that's what floods this bed. But anyway, this video is about this rocket stove here. I've never seen one this style. This is pretty much my idea, I guess. I don't know if anybody else has done one like this. I wouldn't necessarily call it a boiler, but this big tank over to the right here is just two propane tanks welded together, and I fill this entire system with water. So this is a J-tube style rocket stove, but it's basically set up for pellets. That's why I have this crazy feeder on here that I fill with pellets. And yeah, it's been a while since I've been in here. This is the air inlet. I have this tube hooked up outside, that way it doesn't a big problem that people have with wood stoves and heaters in general is that these things cause a massive draft. So, you know, people say their house is drafty, but the reason it's drafty is because the heater is pulling air in from somewhere. It has to. The fire has to get oxygen from somewhere, and it will pull it through every crack available and therefore give you drafts. So this is basically trying to make like a positive pressure system. The air comes in from outside through this tube, and that's what feeds the fire, right? So it's not pulling air from inside the greenhouse and pulling cracks in or pulling air in around the doors and such. Okay, so I fill this entire system with water. Let me get my light. Let's see if we can see in here. Maybe I can do it with the camera. Let me turn the light on. Let's see what she looks like in there. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Okay, it's basically a 15-gallon barrel, and down in there is a I want to say that's a either a Freon tank or a helium tank that I welded over top of the riser pipe. So technically my riser pipe in this stove only comes up maybe about here somewhere in this area. The rest of this is filled with water. Okay, I'll fill it with water. I'll fill this entire tank with water over here all the way to the top. These two lines here, I need to actually, if anybody tries to copy this design, the thing you need to do is maybe make this at a hard line so it can stay level, because this stove will transfer water through convection. But if these lines are not level, right, sometimes I have a 2x4 I'll put in here and I'll kind of crib them up to get them level. It will convect. So your hot water will, as this thing's warming, as this tank's warming, the warm water will come up into here and the cold water will drop and come out of this line. And I will actually get condensation down here on the bottom of this barrel as it's warming up from the cold water coming from this tank into this one. So it does work. Why I did it that way is, you know, this thing's kind of part of my preps, you know. I want systems that are going to run without electricity, or if for some reason I need to at least grow some lettuce, I can all winter long. I would just have to heat this water up every day. Another thing is, the water heats up during the day being in here. Like right now, what's the temperature? We're 75, almost 80 degrees in here, and it's 32 outside, I believe, right now. Or 36, somewhere around there. So, you know, it gets warm in here, and there's no water even in there yet. So my plan is during the day that this tanks will collect the heat from the sun to help put the heat back into the greenhouse at night to keep the plants from freezing, you know. I need some more insulation in here. I haven't really finished it, but I wanted to get this major system in here. You know, insulation I can always put on the wall somehow, but this thing I have to build with electricity, you know. So yeah, so you know, this thing's pretty interesting. It's been a while since I opened this up. Let's see what we got going on in here. Yeah, I need to go through it. There's an old batch unburned pellets in here. Oh, can I get the basket out? Yeah, I can. Alright, I'll show you guys what this thing looks like. Oh, we're gonna make a mess. Oh man, we're making a mess. Alright. Yeah, it's been a while since I ran this thing, probably spring of the year when it was real cold, and I had my seedlings in here. I'll clean this up later. Alright, anyway, this is the basket that I designed for the burner. This is probably the best way to do it that I've found, because you have to have an air hole going through here. You can't just do a cage with the pellets. There's not enough airflow. It won't burn right. But this seems to work really good. And depending on the way that you design the basket, depends on how hot and fast the stove is going to burn. So I think with this basket we're getting about 45 minutes, maybe an hour and 10 minutes. I think it was an hour and 15 minutes per pound of pellets, which isn't bad. So if I fill this thing up, I think 7 pounds goes in there. So figure it out. It would go for like a pretty good while, 6 to 8 hours, something like that, at a really slow burn to heat this water up. You know, it's not really meant to heat the air. I built this stove to heat the water in these tanks, you know, to hold a little bit of temperature in here overnight when the plants need it. So that was the idea with this stove. I wouldn't call it a boiler, but I really don't know what to call it. But it does work very well through convection. This entire tank will heat up, both of them. And it uses very little fuel. And it also is pulling air from outside, so it helps keep the drafts down. There's the, it's crazy. It's like an air cleaner box from a big truck, piece of box tubing, a tin can. I did the tin can because you need to have a lid that seals here, otherwise you'll get smoke out of this once you get down to a limited amount of pellets in there, you know, a small amount of pellets, it'll start smoking out of here. So you got to have some sort of sealed lid to hold all that in there. I haven't ran this stove on corn, but I have ran it on pellets plenty of times. And I haven't ran it on regular wood either, but it will run on regular wood though. You just have to take this feed tube off, and then you wouldn't be able to pull outside air. Yeah, I need to take all this apart, clean it out. I haven't used this thing in months and months and months. So there's my air inlet, and pulls air in from over there. And this stove's pretty much designed the same way as the one I took a video of earlier, the one that's in my garage. There's a burn chamber in this box, and I filled the entire box with kitty litter, you know, because it's dry. Oh, and there's a drain valve on this big tank that runs right outside. So I just open that up and I can dump all the water out of here, because both of these tanks are steel, so I don't leave the water in there all the time. I guess if you were wanting to leave the water in there all the time, I would go with some sort of antifreeze solution. You know, either straight or mix it. But I usually leave them empty until I really need to use it, which isn't often, usually just in the spring of the year for a couple weeks. But I figured if something crazy happened, I would be able to grow some sort of food all winter long. I would just have to maintain this, you know, some sort of heat in here. And this gives me an option. I like options. Alright, I wanted to make a video on this. I think this was the third one that I built. I don't know if this is an actual design, or if... I'm pretty sure I just came up with this on my own. I might have conglomerated a couple different designs together, but we'll see. That's about it. She works really good. These are awesome stoves. You really gotta do your research on them. They work really good though. One of these days I'll do a video on this ebb and flow. There's a bunch of them online, ebb and flow setups. But another thing, if anybody's looking for any DC timers, DC to DC timers, these things are really good. I mean, I've had them for probably about 4 or 5 years, and they work great. I mean, you can put, I think, up to about 10 settings of on-off cycles. I got a bubbler there for aerating the table, or aerating the water in the water tank. But we'll do that another day when I get it up and running and get some seeds planted in it. All right, guys, take it easy. I got another small portable rocket stove I'll have to do a video on later when I get a chance. All right, comment, rate, and subscribe. Later.